President Knapp, I have the honor to present to you Jeanne Narum for the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
You were born into a proud farming family in Clinton, Iowa, and you grew up in Preston, Iowa, a town of 600 people set amid rolling cornfields not far from the Mississippi River. You developed a love of music at an early age and graduated from St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota, with a degree in music. From this unlikely background, you emerged to become an internationally recognized advocate for undergraduate science education, as well as a leading advocate for liberal arts colleges competing for grants from federal agencies. You began your professional career as a grant writer at your alma mater and spent the next 15 years in development work at small liberal arts colleges with strong science programs. In 1989, using what you called a Noah's Ark approach, you brought together 2 chemists, 2 biologists, and many other pairs of scientists to develop an outline for the reform of undergraduate science programs. Your mission grew as you discovered other people around the country who are also engaged in similar conversations. You brought these isolated groups of people together, described and analyzed their work, and disseminated the results. This endeavor grew to become Project Kaleidoscope, now a nationally renowned organization that works with colleges and universities to promote undergraduate learning in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You also serve as director of the Independent Colleges Office, which helps member institutions compete for federal grants for faculty support, curriculum development, and institutional renewal. Jeanne Narum, you have brought a scientific approach to the study of science and have encouraged the development of scientific skills in all undergraduates, whether they major in music or microbiology. For all these accomplishments, the George Washington University is proud to bestow upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, with all the rights, duties, privileges, and opportunities pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Thank you, President Knapp. I am deeply honored and somewhat overwhelmed. Your recognition of the work of Project Kaleidoscope signals what is important to the George Washington University: the importance of taking leadership and connecting the dots in new ways between science and society, between the campus and the world beyond, and between the quality of undergraduate learning in science, mathematics, and the various fields of science, and the capacity of our nation to continue to thrive and prosper as a free democracy into the future. For the 2009 graduates of the George Washington University, let me describe some of the A, B's, and C's of the lessons we've learned. First, aim high, have high ambitions. Early on in our work, someone sent me these words of wisdom: make no small plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood. The male gender indicates the age of those words, uttered more than 100 years ago by the great Chicago architect Daniel Burnham. As an aside, they probably still resonate with leaders from Chicago today, and we are very glad for that. 20 years ago, it seemed daunting to aspire to transforming the undergraduate learning environment in math, science, and engineering, but we had high aspirations, persisted, and succeeded. Second, build bridges that begin to connect the dots in ways that make sense for your society in our time. Become boundary-crossing agents. At the beginning of our work, we saw 1,000 unconnected points of light across the country and set about building a national power grid to illuminate best practices in science, math, teaching, and learning. What we distilled from these models of best practices was that what works was when campuses had carefully identified goals for learning that were reflected in all right to wait? Reflected in program and space. One of the overriding goals we notice is that students become boundary-crossing agents, able to cross boundaries between disciplines, between the academic and the real world, boundaries between what is and what might be, and able to do this because of their learning as undergraduates. Our big ambition in our work, the heart of our work, has been to nurture communities of boundary crossing agents. I leave with you the challenge of aiming high, of having big ambitions, and hope that each of you aim to be a boundary crossing agent in some part of the world where your skills and passions can make a difference. All our communities, local, regional, and global, need you. Congratulations.
President Knapp, it is my great pleasure to present to you John Safer for the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa.
Thank you. You started your career in business, but went on to become one of the nation's and the world's foremost artists. A native Washingtonian, you entered the George Washington University at the age of 16 and graduated with an associate's degree and left to serve in World War II as a first lieutenant in the Army Air Corps. When the war ended, you remained stationed in Europe for an extra year, which gave you an opportunity to study the continent's great works of art. In 1947, you graduated from GW with a bachelor's degree in economics and went on to earn a law degree at Harvard. Then, with the television industry in its infancy, you took a job at a new and independent TV station in Cleveland. You rose quickly to become program director and implemented innovations that helped you beat the ratings of all the network-affiliated stations. In 1953, you returned to Washington and transformed the family business into a major player in real estate development. Some 20 years later, you entered the world of banking, becoming chairman of the Executive Committee of Financial General Bank Shares, and in 1981, the chairman of the board of DC National Bank, which later became part of Bank of America. In 1999, you became chairman of the board of Materia Incorporated, a technology company noted for its Nobel Prize-winning green chemistry. A self-taught artist, you experimented with plastic swizzle sticks, moved on to carve lucite, and then took on the challenge of creating works in bronze, both minimal and monumental. Your work now appears all over the world in museums, embassies, palaces, and at the George Washington University. John Safer, for the depth and breadth of your contributions, the George Washington University proudly confers upon you the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa, with all the rights, duties, privileges, and opportunities pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Thank you. I started off as a bewildered, frightened freshman here, and it's a great honor to be here today. When I was informed that I'd be addressing the graduating class at George Washington today, I began to ask myself, what can I say that will have meaning and value to you? And I tried to go through my life to determine what I've done that would be unusual. Well, I've had a wider ranging career than most, and so it occurred to me that perhaps I have a broader perspective on life than most. As President Knapp said, when I left George Washington University, World War II was on, and I joined the Air Force, spent years in that, went on to go to law school, worked in television, and then I did some electronic research, and then I started building shopping centers, hotels, office buildings, and then became the chairman of the board of a succession of banks. And throughout all of that, that was never my focus in life. My focus was always my art and my sculpture, and I tried to spend at least half of my waking hours on that sculpture. I tried to create beauty where there had been none before. I tried to create sculptures which, at best, I hoped would inspire others. And so I asked myself, what can I glean from all that that I can pass on to you? Well, I have a suggestion. All of you are starting your careers today. You will go on into private business, industry. You'll become doctors, lawyers, scientists. And I would strongly suggest that you turn your focus outward rather than inward. Set as your goals not just personal success, but set as your goal that you can make the world a better place. Because if you do that, a remarkable thing can happen. If you try to make the world a better place, the world can become a better place. Thank you, and I'm very proud and very honored, and I thank you one and all.
Mr. Safer.